Hey, folks! Happy Friday, and welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 74, folks. Tonight, I just get into a little chat with you about my idea of keto and carnivore for men. Right? We always talk about what's the best thing for men, or we don't always talk about it. I want to talk about it tonight: diet, exercise, life, stress, all of that stuff. I get into it, and it's just an episode, just me, folks. One of those Friday nights. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for visiting our sponsors. As always, this episode and every episode is sponsored by Volpe Martial Arts. Check out volpemartialarts.com for more details. And that is KW's, Kitchen Waterloo's hottest, newest Kung Fu and Hapkido martial arts school. My brother, Sifu Adam Volpe, is the head instructor there. Check it out and tell him I said hello. Also, this episode and every episode so far is brought to you by Papa Earth. So papaearth.ca is Canadian sourced and Canadian delivered beef from Alberta and Ontario. Find beef, chicken, pork, lamb, poultry, fish, everything delivered right to your door. Check them out, and don't forget to use the code word Fatso Meat. Fatso Meat, save you $10 off the small box or $20 off the large box. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Fatso Radio, July 3rd. Happy Canada Day a couple days ago. Happy 4th of July tomorrow. I love you all. Lily, take it away.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
So get your butt and get in your chair.
Don't eat your nails and don't pull your hair.
We'll talk about chicken or talk about steak.
We'll talk about fat, for goodness sake.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 74. How you doing? I know. Anyway, episode number 74, folks, and I'm so excited to talk to you today. Tonight's Brothers Talk. I want to talk about men. I want to talk not just to men, of course, but to women and to everybody around the world. But I specifically want to focus on men tonight. Something that I know because I'm a man, right? And I have a lot of men friends and family and everything else. But I just want to focus on men. From my perspective, at least from the diet and wellness and all of that stuff. So let's just get right into it, right? First thing I want to talk about is eating for men, right? The one of the benefits, or some of the many benefits of the keto diet, and I've even found into the carnivore diet, is that for me, for a man, sometimes I feel like this is really a hack because it's really, really dummy proof. Now, I'm not saying that men are dummies by no means, but I know a lot of men that don't like to cook. I also know a lot of men that love to cook. So there's a big mix, just like a lot of women like to cook. Some women don't love to cook, right? Some women hate to cook, same as men. But I want to focus on this with food and the diet, specifically with the keto and the carnivore diet, because there's a lot of things that really tap into what I think a lot of men find easy or what would help a lot of men. And I'm not going to generalize everybody the same. And I know there's men all along the spectrum, and I'm along that spectrum as well. Sometimes I'm on the crazy end of the spectrum. Sometimes I'm not the crazy end, and vice versa. Sometimes on a more traditional end of the spectrum as far as what would be considered a masculine kind of a trait. But sometimes I'm on the very, very other end of the spectrum, and I'm okay with that. I'm growing and learning that it's okay. We live within this spectrum. So that's what life is about. So for eating, man, let's get into it. I think that keto, this is a really cool hack for a lot of people, for a lot of men. And I think one of the reasons why is because, quite simply, I know a lot of men that like barbecue. I know a lot of men that like steaks, that like ribs, that like chicken wings, roast, just any kind of meat, fish and all of that. And with this diet, with the keto diet specifically, to start at least, it lets you do that. It lets you enjoy a lot of that meat, all the fish and all that stuff. And it gives you a little bit more of that freedom. I know one of the things that I really struggled with when I was younger, like in my teens and in my 20s and even my 30s, not so much in my 30s, but even my teens and my 20s, actually a little bit in my 30s as well. But one of the things I struggled with is that how can we lose weight if I have to avoid fat, have to avoid sugar, have to avoid everything, right? So the keto diet, and especially more into carnivore, which I'm going to get into right now, really is it's set up for a lot of men to win and to succeed, not win, but to really succeed with it. And I think that it could optimize, it can help to optimize a lot of people out there. And today we're talking about men, of course. So I think that the keto diet can do that. Even more so than the keto diet, I think for most men that I've talked to that have tried the carnivore diet is even just another step up from the keto diet. And again, a recap, guys, a keto diet, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm giving you personal advice from my experience, but also just what I think, what my gut instinct is, right? And we talk about gut health, right? Sometimes. So I don't know if there's a connection. Maybe if you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy gut ideas and gut instincts. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe it is. I hope it is anyway. So the carnivore diet, right? When I was on the keto diet, or when I was strictly keto rather, and not not anything else, I kept the meat, I kept the veggies, but I really tried to lower the carbohydrates. With the carnivore diet, it's really an easier type diet from a simplistic standpoint, from an idea of how to adhere to it, you know, how to abide by the rules and how to kind of follow the rules. It's really easy because there's a rule, one rule: eat animal food. That's it, right? Animal food, or food that comes from animals. A cheese I would include in that as well. But you know, nose to tail, all the organs, the muscle meat, the connective tissue, whatever you want to eat on the animals, eat it, eat it. It's all good. It's all good. Essentially, remember, when you're eating an egg, you're eating everything that develops into a chicken, right? We can't eat eggs of other species. Other birds, of course, we can. So get all the eggs you can. I think reptiles maybe too. But anyway, yeah, the keto diet, I mean, the carnivore diet, like I said, it was just removing those plants. And it was even more of a hack for me. It's like, you know, many times I would joke and, you know, pound my chest and say, oh, you know, I'm just going to eat some steak today. And I just ate some steak. And at the very first days, I have to tell you, the very first days of the carnivore diet, I oftentimes felt like this must be too good to be true, right? It must be, because I was eating a steak, I was feeling great. I was going to bed in the morning. I was having some ground beef and then a steak maybe later on at night. And I was going to bed and I was having, you know, getting up in the morning. And even when I was just doing the 1 month of ground beef, I was ground beef and butter. I think I did for a month, January, a couple of years ago. And I was feeling great. When you wake up every single day and you feel great and you do something and you go to bed that night and you have a productive day and you wake up and you feel great and you're doing it and you're feeling healthy and you're continuing doing that, like that speaks volumes, right? So the keto, the carnivore diet, like I said, the carnivore way, it really taps into, again, man, the barbecue, the meat, the slow roasting, it even taps into the hunting and the fishing, which completely makes sense, right? We wouldn't be obsessed as a people with roasting and barbecuing and slow aging and even charcuterie. I haven't even started to get into charcuterie, but we wouldn't be quote unquote obsessed as a people. And which we are, by the way. We got here from all of that cured meat and salted meat and all the fresh meat as well. But we wouldn't have gotten this far, nor would we have been able to gather all of that stuff if we weren't successful at hunting. So that was my long way of getting to that. The next point, which is hunting, right? I want to talk about hunting and fishing a little later on how that really helps us connect with nature and helps us connect with the food, because when you really know where you get your food from, and when you really know what it's like to kill that animal, right, and to clean that animal out and to then cook that animal and to eat that animal, there's a whole bunch of connections that take place in that process, in that experience. So it's really very valuable. But again, the eating, the keto and the carnivore, it is, I think, for a lot of men, and a lot of boys as well, it's a natural thing, and a lot of women as well. So I'm not excluding women in this episode, but I really want to focus on men. But I think that it is a natural thing for all. I know it's a natural thing for all humans, and I know that men can really tap into it if they really let themselves, and if I know, for like me, I had to kind of let go of that brainwashing, kind of that conditioning of, you know, fat's bad for you, sausage is bad for you, you're going to die of a heart attack at 40 if you eat bacon every day. Really? Okay. I don't think so. So it's, you know, those kind of things. So the carnivore diet is really like, and I say this a lot of times, but it really felt like a hack. It really felt like a cheat code. You know, for all those men out there, you play video games, I'm sure, right? Men, women, everybody plays video games. It's like a cheat code. It's like something you just found out. Again, like I say this all the time, the first couple of days, I quite honestly didn't believe what was happening. I was like, oh, I feel great. I'm still going to the washroom. Oh, you know, I was told that if you don't eat fiber, if you don't eat 7 bushels, I'm exaggerating, but if you don't eat a lot of greens, if you don't eat a lot of fiber, you won't pass it through, and it'll just rot in your gut forever. Hogwash. It's literally horseshit when someone tells you that you need greens in order to shit. It just doesn't work that way, folks. We pass through our waste regardless, right, of what we eat. However, it's actually better. I found it's better when you're eating a keto and even a carnivore diet. So that's another thing for men. If you have digestive issues, man, literally, man, if you have digestive issues, give it a shot. Cut out the shit. Cut out the garbage, right? And eat some meat. Do it. Do it responsibly. Start slow. Work your way up. Don't have 7 pounds of meat the first day and then say, "Well, Carlo, I couldn't move the next day." Well, you're not meant to eat 7 pounds in your first day. You can work your way up. I'm sure there are competitive eaters out there that eat a lot of meat, but do that maybe or not. Some food for thought. So moving. Let's get into that. For men, again, it's very. I like to keep it simple, not because I'm stupid, right? I think the old saying when we were in grade school was KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? And although I don't like the term stupid at the end, but or keep it simple, Sam, or keep it simple, Sandy, or keep it simple, whatever it is, or keep it simply simple. Maybe that's a better way. But it means so much to keep something simple. It means so much because you don't need complexity in certain things in your life. Certain things you do need complexity, of course, but certain things you don't need complexity in. And diet, I truly believe we don't need a whole lot of complexity in our diet. I think we can have a diversity as far as different foods and different sources, different animals, different times of year maybe, but I don't think we need to add a certain amount of complexity, which means, and when I say complexity, when I hear complexity, I mean something like you have to have a certain amount of grams of this and a certain amount of grams of that, and you need to make these certain recipes, you need to get these extra proteins from outside, and you need to supplement, and that's complexity in my mind. Eating every 3 hours and making sure and weighing everything, in my mind, that's complexity, and that's unnecessary complexity in my mind. However, a lot of people find a lot of benefit from weighing things out, from a portion. There's a method to everything, and there's a method to the madness, and there's a reason that all of that stuff does work, right? So find what works for you. But for moving rather, and for the men, when I think keep it simple, stupid, where I think keep it simple, I think lift something heavy, right? Not even that often, but lift something heavy once in a while. I believe go for a long walk. It's the primal kind of attitude. I think Mark Sisson's the primal blueprint. Yes, it certainly is Mark Sisson, primal blueprint rather. So big shout out to Mark Sisson. But he's like, lift heavy things, walk long distances. So have some constant, steady exercise that's very low impact. That's good for your heart, right? And then also do something like a sprint or something like a chase, or to simulate rather something like a hunt, or something like in the past where we would need to run quickly to get away from danger, or what have you, or even just sport, right? Simulate sports. So lift something heavy, walk, and then maybe run sprint or something like that. The idea of sprints, or the idea of hills, a lot of people do that, right? Sprints, it's a good way to exhaust yourself quickly, right? You run 20 yards, run back, run 10 yards, run back, run 10 yards, back and forth, or run up the hills, right? I remember so many memories of back in the old days of playing football, whether it was high school, even college, running the hills, running the stairs in high school, running Jericho Hills in college. In Lamoni. I don't think Jericho Hills was actually in Lamoni, but anyway, we used to call this place Jericho's Hills, and we used to run these hills. It's that primal idea that we don't need to keep it complicated, right? Lifting heavy things keeps your muscles intact, rather, keeps your bones strong, because you need resistance, right, to help keep your bones strong. When you have exercise, and when you lift stuff, and you tax the body, and you require your body to do things, you're getting the body to recuperate, and to control, and to call all of these different cells to help your muscles grow, right, and to help your bones grow. And your muscles, when you lift when you lift heavy things, rather, you do small tears on your muscles, and you do tiny little microfiber damage that then gets repaired, and you get stronger. And when you do that on a regular basis, you get stronger. When you increase your load on a regular basis, you can get stronger. Things like sprint, a really great way to boost testosterone, right? I've read that sprinting and chopping wood, I think, are kind of comparable into how it's a great way to boost testosterone rather naturally. So simple movements, right? If you like biking, don't get me wrong, bike to your heart's content. If you like running, run to your heart's content. If you like archery, if you like anything, do it. Just move, right? My idea of what I want to introduce, or what I want to talk about, is the simple things, right? So for example, every month I do a different kind of a gimmick, or a different kind of not a gimmick, right? Well, yeah, maybe it is a gimmick, but I did 20 push-ups and 30 push-ups and 40 push-ups and 50 push-ups, and I went up to 100 push-ups. And then June I went back to basics. And then July, now I'm just doing poolside push-ups. I'm doing on the diving board, and then I'm going to do a crazy jump every time. But it's something like, so this is what I'm doing every day. I'm doing 20 push-ups in the morning, not in the morning rather, but whenever. On the diving board, it's a little harder, a little stability. And then I'm doing 20 crunches and 20 squats still. So it's not a ton of exercise, right? But this, again, it really, really speaks to how important a diet is. So we've talked about the keto, eating clean for men. Let's go carnivore. We can have barbecues, right? For moving, lifting heavy things, walking. I didn't talk about walking too much now, but in the past, I used to walk every single day when I was at work. When I was working in my old job, which I don't work anymore, by the way. I got laid off a couple months ago. Thank you very much. Woo! Summer Carlo. So yeah, walking was a great thing. I still walk a little bit here. I'm trying to actually include biking now into my routine, but something, whatever it is, whether it's one thing or two things or three things, keep them simple, keep them not complex, keep them simple. Because if you add too much complexity, this is my opinion, if you add too much complexity, too much of a reason to mess up or mix up or think you need to redo it, or you're not in the right position or the right mood or the right whatever, you don't have the right clothes or whatever the heck you're talking about, it's just another thing not to do, right? It's another reason for us to, it's another thing to prevent us from doing it. And it's in our nature. Like, it's not, even if you don't want to procrastinate, even if you don't want to necessarily hold it off or push it off, whatever, if there's something like, it's human nature in us to get distracted or something. So keep it simple and have a routine. Do something simple. If you're going to walk and you're a walker, walk every day. Doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter if you do it every same time. It doesn't matter if you do it the same time every day. However, I would suggest that because it's part of a routine, right? We're creatures of habits. And I truly believe that we work best when we follow a routine. So if you're going to do that, walk every morning or bike every morning or walk every lunch or whatever it is. Do that and do it and keep it simple. Okay. Breathing. It's important for men to breathe. What do you mean, Carlo? I breathe every day. Okay. You do breathe every day. And I breathe every day as well. So I just took a little coffee sip there. I breathe every day and you breathe every day. But I'm talking about purposeful breathing or mindful breathing, or just having your mind on the fact that you're thinking about your breathing, right? That's the simplest way I can talk about it. We can talk about it in a meditative way or a spiritual way or whatever you want to talk about it, you know, the mind or whatever it is, but really just think about breathing. This is my idea of what I have. Think about breathing and work with that. If you can sit and think about your breathing and just think about the breathing and just focus on your breathing for a couple of minutes, that's a form of meditation, right? For a lot of people, that's meditation completely, right? For me, that's the best thing I can do to meditate so far. I'm trying, actually, sometimes I've gone a little bit better, a little bit kind of deeper, whatever. But if you're sitting, and if you're sitting still for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, right? We have the time. I think the old saying was, if you don't have 30 minutes, if you don't have time to meditate for 30 minutes, then you should meditate for 1 hour or something like that, which means that if you don't think you have time, then you need more time than that, which makes sense, I guess, because if we were, I guess the idea would be that if you're not prioritizing your time for quietness or for stillness or for meditation, if you can't prioritize a certain amount of time, then we really need to work at getting you more because we're farther off. And that makes sense, actually, because for many years, I can't meditate for half an hour. I mean, I can meditate for 5 minutes maybe, and maybe I can meditate a little longer, but the idea even for a minute for a lot of people is really weird. So just breathe. Even when I was walking in my old job, when I was walking around the little lake there outside my office, I would just focus on my breath. I would just do some nose breathing, nasal breathing. I would do just in my nose, out my mouth sometimes. I would just chill and focus on the breath. And there's a lot of calmness that comes with that. And it's its own little meditation as well, right? I'm by no means a meditation expert, by no means. But it's something that comes with it, right? So, you know, there's options as far as different types of breathing techniques as well. There's holotropic breathing. There's all types of breathing, breath work we can look into as well. That I've heard of many things. The other thing with breath work, I mean, I might as well talk about it. It is cannabis, right? It's smoking, but it's not cigarettes, of course, but it is inhaling something. You can vaporize, you can do edibles, you can do whatever. But oddly enough, there are studies and there are many claims that cannabis actually helps with breathing, which sounds probably counterintuitive. But I don't know. I mean, I use it and my lungs are pretty good. I think I have pretty good capacity. I can swim all day. I can do some Kung Fu, but I don't know, maybe look into that as well. I know for some people, it really helps helps them rather relax. For some people, it doesn't help them relax. Some people it makes them anxious. So use responsibly. Of course, talk to your doctor and all that stuff. the other thing about with meditation is just trying to relax, right? It's so hard, and I get it, guys. I get it, man. Whether you're 19 and you're in college, and I mean, it wasn't that hard for me to relax. I don't think when I was 19, but you may be the 19-year-old that finds it hard to relax. You may be 25 or 30 or 35 or 40, and if you're in your 40s, I can relate. If you're in your 30s, I can probably relate still. It's hard to relax, right? It's hard to relax, especially these days when we're told to relax, especially when most of our days don't involve relaxation at all. And we almost have to schedule relaxation or have a subscription, or sorry, rather a prescription for a certain type of modality of a relaxation, whether it's meditation or whether it's massage therapy, whether it's a flotation device, a float tank, whether it's just any type of just relaxation. You know, it may be cannabis, maybe it's psychedelics might do it for you. Maybe, I don't know, whatever it is that helps you chill out and helps you relax. It's worthy looking into, right? Walking helps a lot of people relax. Cold showers, warm showers, hot tubs, cold plunges, float tanks. My God, I could speak on for hours on float tanks. Actually, I think I want to do an episode on float tanks. If you have any information on float tanks and if you want to kind of share your experience with float tanks, send me an email. fatsoradio@gmail.com. If you are in the KW area and you have a float tank service, or if you have a float tank business, send me a line. Let's talk about it. I want to have you on the show. But floating is great. Sorry, just a kind of an midway kind of a advertisement there. But really, I just want to get kind of the word out, right? Floating is an awesome thing. I started a few years ago. I haven't floated in a few months now, well, since the whole COVID thing. But even before that, it's been probably 6 months at least. It's a great way to relax. For some people, being in a flotation tank, it puts them in a dream state, right? For some people, it puts them in a psychedelic state. It puts them in a hallucinogenic state, or psychedelic mimicking state, which can feel like a hallucinogenic state, maybe. For me, I know it excuse my language, just chilled me the F out. It was like, when I was done, I was like, yo, I'm good. You could have said anything to me. You could have said, you have cancer. You could have said anything. Well, I did know I had cancer. And it was like, whatever, I'm good. Like, and you know, it's not a high. It's not, it's the opposite. But it's a calm. It's not a low. It's a calm, right? And it's a resting, I think, of the mind, was when I was in it. But again, it's weird because for me at least, the first 20 minutes or even maybe 30 minutes was really uneasy for me. I was trying to find my bearings, right? You're floating, right? If you haven't been in a float tank before, check it out. It's awesome. You're in mostly darkness, complete darkness if you want. You can have the door open if you want. Earplugs in, because your water is going to be below your ears at times, and so it protects your ears, of course. So you don't hear anything, and it's dark, and you're floating in salt water, as there's 700 or 800 pounds of Epsom salt, which basically makes you buoyant, super buoyant, so you'll float. It's awesome. You can get into, like I said earlier, a dream state. When I was saying was that the first time I did it, it took me really around 20 or 30 minutes to just chill out, right? It was like, okay, this is weird. It's darkness. It's maybe not 20 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I don't know. It felt like 4 hours. So I'm thinking, and it was only in there 90 minutes. So maybe 20 minutes, maybe 5, who knows? But it felt like to me about 20 minutes. However, it's really hard to sense your time in there because you're in this space. It feels like it's space. And that's the cool thing as well. If I can just kind of elaborate for a minute, when you can settle down and you can kind of just relax after 5 minutes or however long it takes you, you close your eyes, and once you have your eyes closed for a while, and if it's completely dark in there, you open your eyes and it's still dark. That is wild. That's cool, because whether your eyes are closed or not, it's kind of the same. And then I found that I was just keep my eyes closed anyways. It was more relaxing to me. But it felt like I was in space. I'm not gonna lie, kids. It felt like I was floating in space. And a couple times I was like, whoa, kind of get that sense in your stomach that you're kind of falling for a second. Not that I was falling, but kind of sense that there's like nothing below you, or beneath you rather. And there's a tank beneath you, of course. But when it's completely dark and you feel like you're in space, you kind of feel like there's nothing below you. So it's kind of cool, very trippy. There are people who have, I'm not sure if I've talked about this before, but there are people who have kind of gone through some learning courses and kind of learning regiments while in a float tank. You can listen to music, you can meditate, all kinds of different things. So check that out. I think it's a cool thing. The other thing that I think that it's is really cool for men and women, everybody, but especially this episode I want to talk about men, is cooking, right? So cooking for a lot of people, people in my family, people, my friends, for a lot of people, it is therapeutic. So So if it's therapeutic for some people, even if it's not therapeutic for you, right? It's something that I feel like people should really get into from the roots, or from our roots rather. And I think one of the easy ways, or one of the best ways to do it, is to turn kind of into your family or into your roots, and try to investigate into your roots and see, whether, like, my family's background is, is Italian and Irish and English and some Scottish in there, and maybe some German in there. And so basically, Western Europe, right? So I have a lot of fun kind of tapping into what the old world foods are. So cooking, let's get into that. Let's tap into the old world foods. If you're German, if you're Italian, if you're Spanish, if you're Portuguese, if you're whatever, if you're Chinese or Japanese, or if you're Vietnamese, or if you're Laotian, if you're wherever you are, if you're Australian, right? You have, first of all, you have a family, or your family has a family, or your friends have a family, and you have a culture. Middle Eastern, wherever you are, Russian, wherever you are, tap into that cultural food. Because remember, before all of this bullshit, before all the crappy food that really is making us sick, right? It was our ancestral cultural food, right? All cultures have meat in their diet at some point, right? Or eggs, or dairy, cheese in their diet at some point. So when you're into cooking, let's get into it, right? If you love barbecue, you can find barbecue on every square inch of the planet. Everywhere there's earth, whether it's land or sea, right, or air, there are animals. There are animals flying, there are animals swimming, there are animals walking and crawling and slithering all over the place. So there are dishes for meat everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, there's going to be a dish for, in the northern Alaska, there's going to be a dish for caribou, or bear, or moose. In the southern tip of Antarctica, I'm sure there's a recipe for penguin. Let's be honest, folks. If you're starving, you're eating penguin. You're eating penguin. If you're in Antarctica and you need food and you're not fishing very well, or whatever the other source of food is going to be, you're eating penguins, right? Any place in the world that there's going to be food, or there's going to be wildlife, that's our food, right? And the longer I do this, the keto, the carnivore, the more it makes sense to me. I understand that I could be in this echo chamber sometimes, but it really makes sense to me from an ancestral standpoint, right? If you just take away all of our processed food, what do we have? All of our processed food and all of our machinery, even. Let's think about that. All of our machinery, that talking about grinding things and adding chemicals or whatever, things that are made in the lab. What do we have? You have hunting and fishing. You basically have hunting, fishing, and catching and trapping, right? And hunting or gathering, right? Which is berries and things like that. But you don't, unless you're living where bananas grow, unless you're living where pineapples grow, right? Unless you're living where these certain fruits and vegetables are that you're not going to get normally, right? If all of our modern food is removed, you'd be eating a Paleolithic diet, which is meat and berries. It's pretty much, meat, eggs, meat's poultry, I guess. Yeah, and then cheeses. And once we figured out how to make cheese, it probably wasn't hard to let milk ferment and see what happens. I imagine we've been doing it for a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but it's keeping it simple, right? So like I said, tap into your family history. I talked to my dad. I say, hey, Pa, how do we make salami? This is how we make it. We add salt and pork and we hang it. In casings. Or how do we make this? If you're in the U.S., man, the barbecue in the U.S., I miss it. I miss you. I'm gonna shout out to all my U.S. friends. I miss you guys. When I was down in the Carolinas for work years ago, some of the best barbecue in my life, and let's keep in mind, I barbecue every day. So some of the best barbecue in my life I've had, it was in the South and North Carolina. Even down in Florida was amazing. I had some amazing barbecue in Texas, of course. But that's it, right? There was always fire. There was always fire. Let me say that. There was always fire, folks. And then what did we do with that fire, right? We kept ourselves warm with that fire, and we cooked food. That's just honestly what we did. We survived the cold weather, and we cooked our food that we killed, and then we ate. So even when we were eating plants, right, we were cooking them for the most part. It turns out that most plants are easier on you when you cook them. Sure, they lose some vitamins, maybe some bioavailability of some of those vitamins as well. But it's a lot of the toxins or plant, maybe not phytonutrients, maybe phytotoxins that are present in plants, a lot of them can be mitigated, right, or at least reduced by boiling, by fermenting, by soaking, things like that. So, we ate beans, and yes, we ate certain kind of vegetables, but there are certain ways to prepare them and things like that. So, even without that, I'm very confident that even with the cultures that had beans and prepared them properly, and had potatoes and prepared them properly, right, or had soy and prepared them properly, even in those cultures, when there was an abundance of meat, I highly doubt they didn't eat the meat. I doubt that their staple or their main dish or the food that they got their nutrition from was truly those other dishes. I think those were side dishes. I think something like potatoes, something like grains, and you can't live off of just bread. I mean, you can survive off of just bread, but for not very long. And the fact that we have to enrich flour, the fact that we have to enrich our bread products and our grain products proves that grains alone, aren't nutritionally sound. Quite honestly, right? You don't have to enrich a steak, right? Or you don't have to enrich liver or eggs. Oh my God, especially liver and eggs, the most greatest things probably in the world as far as food. So, yeah. Hit up your grandfather, hit up your mother, or hit up your father, your brother. Get outside, go barbecuing. Go, every culture, like I said, roasts either a pig or a lamb or a cow or a turkey or some fish. My God, let me talk about that for a minute. I've been smoking on the Brady, is it a Brady? Yeah, Brady smoker outside all week, and my mom's been visiting for a couple weeks, and I've been smoking. I've been smoking pork chops, pork loin, a steak. I did a couple. I did ribs twice already. I did fish. Oh my God, salmon on a homemade smoker. Forget it. I joke sometimes. I'm like, steak's my favorite. Beef's my number one. Lamb's my number two. Salmon, I don't know. Salmon is like lamb and beef and salmon. I think are like the trifecta for me. But we had rainbow trout on there. We had whitefish on the smoker. A couple hours. Some wood chips. Like, it's amazing. It's outside. It's got that great smell. And it's ancestral, folks. You spend 6 hours outside on a slow cooker or a smoker rather, excuse me, within a couple hours, you feel, I bet you will feel some kind of connection to your ancestry. You will feel like, yeah, this makes sense. I know my people were doing this. My people's people were doing this. Your people's people were doing this, because all of our people's folks, all of our people's, first of all, we're all the same people, right? But all of our peoples came from places where they ate meat to survive, and they found food, and they hunted and gathered. That's why it's called hunter-gatherer, right? We all evolved from hunter-gatherers. So cook, barbecue, do what you want, smoke it. Like you said, try every single way. There's more ways to eat meat than anything else I've ever imagined. So don't be afraid to do it. And I want to get into hunting now. So hunting is a great way, like I said before, of really finding that connection, right? Or finding the connections in your path to getting food. If you normally go to a grocery store to buy your steaks, like most people, so that's not shitting on anybody. I go to the grocery store to buy all my steaks, or I go to the farmer to get steaks, or the butcher. But if you go to the grocery store or the butcher or even the farmer, right, and you get your steaks, you're not taking part of the death of that animal. You're not taking part of the processing of the field dressing, so the opening up, right? Taking the guts, whether you dress it, wherever you do it, but taking the guts out, right, and leaving the carcass and letting it hang and letting the blood drain. If you're not taking a part of that, then it's very easy for us to forget that these are live animals. And I get it. I get the sentimental side, not the sentimental side. I guess I get the emotional, the sympathetic side, the empathetic side of, for the animal's sake. Yes, it's a life. I get that, right? But it's especially hunting, right? You try and hunt in the most ethical, the most humane, the quickest, right? The less painful way for the animal. And it really shows you, it really gives you that clear picture of what it's like to, or what's involved rather, right? To put food on your plate. Hunting is awesome. If you go to a farm rather, or you go to a slaughterhouse, a kill house, a slaughterhouse, and you see the process, that's a great way to show you as well. But when you're hunting, it's really, really close. It's up front. And if you take a shot, or whether it's with a bow or a gun, rifle, a shotgun, or whether you're catching with a snare or whatever it is, and you take that animal's life, right? I've I've never caught, I don't think I've ever caught anything yet as far as a mammal. I caught a bunch of fish, but I haven't really caught any live animal or any mammals yet, but I'm looking to. But I know from friends and family and everybody that when you take that life, you know that it's the life, right? And it's important to appreciate that. It's important to know where it comes from. And when you're hunting, you know where it comes from. There's no question, right? Remember, folks, if you're hunting, it's organic food that they're eating, unless they're eating some other food. But chances are, it's non-GMO. It's free range. It's pasture raised or whatever it is. It's the hunted meat is arguably the best. Well, it's arguably the most natural meat around, right? You could probably argue that farmed meat under the right conditions probably get you a better product, but we'll split hairs. If you eat wild animals and the animal's healthy, of course, and it's safe and it's clean, I can't see more healthier food than that. And the same goes for fish. Wild fish, folks, you're catching wild fish. That's the way God or the universe or Allah or whatever you believe in, that's the way it was made. That's the way that animal was made. That fish was made. That bird was made. When you catch a bird, you go duck hunting or pheasant hunting, right? Or partridge hunting. That animal has not eaten crap for the most part, I'm sure, right? Maybe they stumbled into something, campers, grounds, whatever. But that animal is eating healthy food. Hunting. I think hunting is definitely not a lost art, rather, or a lost skill, but it's losing, right? But maybe there's a resurgence as well. I'm more interested now. I feel like when people get a little bit older, they get a little more interested. I feel like there's a movement. There's definitely a man's movement going around. There's a female movement as well. But just generally, I think the movement is important because it's showing that people care about where they're getting their food and they want to go get their food themselves, right? The idea that we are separate from nature and we need to be separated from nature in maybe almost like a white coat or a clinical setting. I don't agree with that. We are not separate from nature. We are part of nature, right? We are animals. And we got here because we hunted those animals, and we still need to hunt those animals, but we need to do it in a humane way, in a respectful way. And even if we're not hunting those animals anymore, but we're raising those animals, right? Remember, we were hunters, but then we moved on to being herders, right? And farmers and ranchers, because it just makes sense, right? Once you can get a bunch of animals in a pen, you can feed out of those animals what you need to feed them. You're laughing. You don't need to hunt anymore, right? So it makes sense. And once you know, and I think once you have that connection, it makes a lot more sense, and it kind of reiterates, for me at least, and I think it does for a lot of people, a good feeling that they're doing what they think is right. As far as from a health perspective, we know natural meat is better for us. From an ethical perspective as well, it's easy to argue that the hunting is very necessary, right? You need to population control of these animals is very necessary. And oftentimes when the words of population control or ideas like that are thrown around, people sometimes kind of get their back against the wall or kind of get defensive when they think, whoa, are we going to control, can we control the animal? Why don't we just let the animals go free? You just can't do that, right? Quite honestly, we can't do that. We have pushed the animals out of their natural habitat. We have built cities. We have built animal reserves. We've built games and parks and things like that to protect these animals. It is our responsibility to protect these animals, but it is also our responsibility to check into this and monitor these populations, because if they're not checked, right? For example, if a certain amount of deer are not taken through every year, right? And then there would be too many deer. And if there are not enough wolves, then and then certain amount of deer won't get killed or what have you. It's just a delicate balance rather for different species. So there are the hunting and the fishing absolutely play a part. I think probably hunting even more than fishing, because it seems like fishing numbers are always dwindling. But hunting numbers are not like that, right? There's a lot of areas around the US and even Canada that there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of animals. There are parts of the US that were wild boars and other animals are a problem, right? So the idea of giving up hunting, the idea to say, even the notion that we don't need hunting anymore and just leave these animals free, it's not that simple, right? It really is not that simple. So the resource management, it's important. The fees you pay for your licenses, the tags, the equipment, a portion of all that stuff goes to preserving the wildlife, right, and wildlife management. So it's very important to do that, and it's very important to pay your fees. Of course, it's very important not to poach. It's very important to go within the rules and the seasons and the limits and all that stuff. Because, like everything else, if we ruin it, we'll ruin it for everybody, right? And that's the way it really works. We've seen that in so many cases. We've even seen our government and other governments overreact dramatically to situations that weren't caused by a lack of policy, right? But they have an answer with a policy sometimes. So it's very, very important for us, I think, to exercise these, whether they're rights or privileges or whatever they are. I think we need to exercise them, and we need to voice them, right? We need to voice the fact that we like to hunt, and we need to voice the fact that we don't only like to hunt, but I think a lot of people find it necessary, whether you're hunting or not. I think it's a necessary part of our culture to maintain that connection. I really do. I think that if everybody experienced hunting, they would look at a lot of things differently in life. First of all, if you experience some kind of a death of an animal, you will look at some things possibly different, or at least you have an opportunity to look at things differently, because, an end of a life is a big deal. If anybody's experienced a loss, my heart goes out to you, and I have as well. And it's terrible, right? It's terrible. So we're not saying that loss of life is by any means devalued or minimized or anything like that, but it's the respect of it. And I know hunters, and I know fishermen, and I know that they're the ones that I know are respectful. Maybe I'm fortunate to know the ones that are respectful, but the ones that I know love animals. They really, really do. And the farmers I know love animals. The ranchers I know love animals. So hunting, I don't go off tangent too much, but hunting, get into it, look into it. Fishing, the same thing, right? Fish responsibly, right? Hunting, if you're going to hunt an animal, you're going to kill that animal, you're going to eat that animal, or somebody's going to eat that animal. Same as a fish. If you take that fish and you take it home and you catch it, somebody's going to eat that fish, right? Let's not waste. That's just the bottom line. I don't care what any other reason there is. If you catch an animal and that life is done, that animal's life is gone, somebody better consume that life. And somebody better use that life force. Let's be honest, right? Something dies, something has to benefit from that life. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to or about rather is again to men, being a parent. It's tough, right? And being a man, it's tough. Being a father is tough. Being a husband is tough. And what's my advice? So my advice, I don't really have too much advice about being a parent, but what I can say is love strong. And from a man's perspective, right? Like, I think it's important for us sometimes to talk about, maybe this is the episode, but it's important for us to talk about the fact that we need the father love, right? We need a father's perspective. We need a father's guidance. And that father's guidance, that father's love, and that father's support can come from people that aren't fathers. Absolutely. It can come from uncles, it can come from brothers, it can come from sisters even, it can come from aunts, it can come from whatever. But most times I'm sure it's going to come from a male, right? It seems more natural, but it doesn't have to come from a father is my point, I guess. Because I have amazing uncles. My father's amazing, of course, but I have amazing uncles. I have an amazing brother. And I know that my brother, my uncles, my cousins, I have so many male cousins that they've stepped in over the years and shown me how to be a man, right? And they've shown me how to be a father even. And that's what I want to talk about, I guess. The idea that our families, right, and our cultures and I guess as a society, we've come, like, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm not the first dad here. I'm not the first man, right? I'm the furthest thing from the first man. I'm the furthest thing from the first father, right? My dad is a dad. My dad is a husband. His dad is a dad, right? It's not like, I guess what I'm trying to say is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think sometimes we feel and we spend so much time on trying to redefine the father, trying to redefine the man, trying to even fine tune the man. And we all want to fine tune ourselves. We want to fine tune the woman. We want to fine tune the man. We want to fine tune the child. I get it. We're all a work in process, right? We're a sculpture, or we're a sculpture rather, and we're being chiseled away, or we're always a work in progress. I get that. But what I think sometimes happens, and I want to speak, I guess, on a little bit, is that sometimes I feel like there's a sense, or there's a notion to kind of remove the masculine a little bit from society, or to suppress the masculine from society, or even to be more nuanced, to suppress a certain image of masculine or masculinity in a society. And I think that's the problem, is that it gets so generalized sometimes. It's like toxic masculinity is something that often gets thrown around. I friggin' hate that word. I hate the word because I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means because you can be toxic anything. You can be toxic. You can be a toxic Baptist. You can be a toxic Catholic. So you can be a toxic feminist, or you can toxic femininity or femininity, toxic, whatever you want to call it. So if you're saying this masculinity is, there's toxic masculinity, I don't know what you're talking about. If someone is a man and he's being toxic, then he's a toxic man. If someone's a woman, they'll be toxic, female. But masculinity is not toxic. And if masculinity is used in a toxic way, then that person is a jerk. Let's be honest, right? If femininity is used in a terrible way, right, then that person's a jerk, right? There's nothing wrong with masculinity. There's nothing wrong with femininity. Am I saying that right? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being a man. There's nothing wrong with being a woman, right? And we need to embrace the fact that we are proud, and we should be proud to be a man. That doesn't mean be an asshole, because the people, this is important, the people that are saying toxic masculinity, or the people that feel that way, they're not completely idiots. They're not idiots. They're not making this up. They have feelings, and they have ideas, and they have examples of where masculinity has been toxic. Masculinity has been toxic. So they're not making this up. I get that as well. So I get that it's nuanced, but I think it needs to be kind of really teased out to understand that it's not the masculinity that's the problem, right? It can be the misuse of masculinity. It can be the misuse of some traits that maybe or usually come with masculinity, or some behaviors maybe that are usually paired with, or usually come with a masculine kind of an idea. But you can't say that there's certain masculinity in an environment, or a certain type of masculinity is toxic. I don't believe that. I believe that everybody's actions and everybody's words, speak for themselves, obviously, and their actions even more so than their words, because oftentimes you can say something and without kind of an avenue like this, or without a platform like this, you can't really understand what people mean. But I'm going to try and tell you what I mean with the whole toxic masculinity. So no, masculinity is not toxic by nature. Neither is being a female is not toxic by nature, right? So what is toxic? Why do people say that? Well, it's because men have a tendency to be aggressive. There's the bottom line, folks. Statistically, men have more assaults. Men have more abuses. Men have more rapes, murders. Men are more aggressive. We know that, right? Okay. Nobody's excusing it. No one is saying it's good. Everybody's saying it's bad, right? But that doesn't mean that it's a toxic part of even a masculinity. It's maybe a toxic part of the subculture. It's a toxic part of a population, maybe, right? The people that, there's other reasons. There's so many cofactors involved on why someone's going to be aggressive. The simple fact that someone's masculine doesn't mean that it's toxic. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, I want to turn the light on celebrating masculinity, right? Let's really celebrate it, because, like, without even being a chauvinist, or without even being, and I'm not saying without even, but without being, or without, that's not my intention at all. If you equate masculinity with strength, if you equate masculinity with hard work, if you do whatever, that's not bad, right? So if you equate masculinity even with some assertiveness, or even some aggressiveness, there's a use. Excuse me, here a second. There's a usefulness, right, for strength, for aggressiveness, assertiveness. There's even a use for violence, right? There is a time and a use for violence. It should be super seldom and super rare, but there is a use, right? But there are and other things, any of these traits that are kind of used or kind of thrown around as all these masculine traits or whatever. I feel like, and I'm not crying and whining saying that men have been shit on for the last 20 years, but you see it a lot, right? TV shows and advertisements, the dummy dad or the sensitive. It's kind of weird how you see things like that happening. But anyway, I also see a little bit more of a push. And I think maybe this keto, and even more the carnivore, helps. I think there is a connection. I think there's a connection, at least for me. It helped me tap into what I think is more of a traditional, maybe masculinity. But the other side of the traditional masculinity is what I want to get into. It's not just the strength, or the maybe the aggressiveness, or maybe the assertiveness, or the take care ofness, or the fix it problems, or whatever you want to call it. I may be wrong on any of those stereotypes or whatever, but think of what you think is stereotypical or typical masculine traits, whatever. And that's what I mean. There's another side of that, right? And the other side of that is the strong, loving father, right? The strong, responsible father, or a strong, responsible dad, right? In the dad that is also sensitive, right? My God, I'm pretty sure I've cried more times than my wife has with my kids. I happen to be a guy that cries, right? If I'm sensitive, if there's a sensitive time, if there's an emotional thing, I'm not a stone. I will show emotions. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm excited, I'm angry, or whatever it is, right? So I think that I want to give you the okay, men. Hey, there you go. I want to give you the okay to show your sensitive side. Show this is what makes you a man. The fact that you have every side, and this is what makes you a woman as well. If you're a woman and you're listening, but this is what I'm talking about for the men. This is what I think being a strong man is: being strong physically, being strong mentally, sure, be strong emotionally, but be strong enough to know when you're weak. Be strong enough to know when it's okay. And it's always, not always maybe, but if you're around a supported person and you're around supported people, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to need help. That's what a real man does, right? A real man puts the bullshit aside, puts the ego aside, which is friggin' hard. Let me tell you, everybody knows how hard it is to drop the ego, to put the ego aside, to ask for help, to be humble, to say I was wrong, right? I make mistakes as a father, as a partner. I make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. And I probably don't say sorry enough. I probably don't admit that I'm wrong enough, but I do admit that I'm wrong. And that's better than not. And that's better than it was maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I wouldn't admit I was wrong. You get better at admitting you're wrong. It gets easier to admit you're wrong. Excuse me. And it's better for you. It's better for you to admit you're wrong when you're wrong, because then you'll learn, right? If you don't admit you're wrong and you just can't see it, then how can you learn? It's going to be harder for you to learn because you're going to bang your head against the wall until you actually learn, right? You actually see it. So be strong, be patient, right? Be everything. At the same time, it's super tough to be a dad today. It's super tough to be a mom today. It's super tough to be a father today. A spouse today. But what does it take? It takes a ton of patience, right? It takes a ton of patience. It takes a ton of patience with kids. I'm learning patience it's very hard, right? For some people it's great. Some people are like, kids are screaming, it doesn't bother them. For me, it drives me bananas, right? Excuse me. Yeah, for me, it drives me bananas. But what are you gonna do? They're your kids. You love them, and sometimes you can handle it. Sometimes you scream back. Sometimes you're zen and all cool about it. But sometimes you're not. It's practice. It takes patience. It takes a lot of patience. And then I guess being a partner, right? The last thing for men, I don't have much advice. Excuse me. I don't have a ton of advice, which I don't think at least would be solid advice or sound advice for partners, because I don't have a clue what I'm doing. All I know is that we stumble our way through life every day, with kids, without kids. Of course, life is easier without kids, but life is better with kids. Quite honestly, it is, right? Every day that you're with your partner, or when you're not with your partner, but every day that when you're with someone, it takes patience. It takes you to listen to them, but it also takes them to listen to you, and it takes a little bit of fancy footwork, right? Sometimes you have to be creative with your discussions, your arguments. Sometimes you need to be creative with how you're going to approach a situation. One of the things that I've run into personally, being a man, a partner situation, husband and wife, is that I oftentimes approach a situation from a fix-it mentality, right? Like, whoa, here's a situation, I got to fix this. I'm going to use my knowledge, my skills to assess the situation, see what I got to do to fix it. And we're going to go on our way and let's get out of this mess, because I hate messes, right? It's funny that I've realized that I hate even situational messes. I don't like to be in that water very long because I want to get resolved and I want to move on, right? So it's sometimes, being a man, a lot of men have this fix-it mentality. A lot of women as well. My mom is actually one of the women that have this fix-it mentality, but a lot of men have this fix-it mentality where they need to fix it, and they just kind of won't rest, right, until they fix it. And I'm learning, difficult in a hard way, and it's taking me long to learn this way, but I'm learning that you can't fix everything, right? And not only that, even sometimes when you want to fix something, it's not necessary for you to fix it. It's more necessary for you just to listen. It's more necessary for you to just be there, right, for your spouse, and it's not a man-woman thing, because I'm not saying that women need men to listen more than women, or vice versa. My spouse, oftentimes, my wife, oftentimes just needs to listen to me as well, right? And just doesn't need to give me advice. The same way that I oftentimes need to just shut up and listen. I think everybody needs to shut up and listen at times because it's natural for us to kind of get carried away a little bit, I think. Well, as you can see, I have a podcast, but it's natural for us to just talk and say, "Oh, I think I know what your problem is. I think I have a solution for you." And I do that. I'm one of those people sometimes that will get excited, or not excited, but sometimes anticipated, right? Or sometimes can sort of see where the conversation is going, or sometimes not. But sometimes kind of see, like, "Oh yeah, I think I have an," but when that's cool on a regular basis, right? Or if you're having a kind of a jovial conversation. But if you're having a discussion that's a heated discussion with your spouse or your significant other, or if you're having a discussion that's really powerful or really challenging because it's some ethical dilemmas or whatever, it's hard. It's hard to put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? And but it's hard to sometimes just listen and without giving that advice. But it is important to do that. I think when the odd time when I was able to do that, the odd time, it works well because it's, it's not that it's not that people just need to be heard for the nonsense sake of being hearing, but it's that people need to actually be heard, right? And there's nuance in that as well. And it's not just that I need to shut up and let you talk. It's that I need to kind of shut up and listen to what you're saying, right? If you can see the difference in that. And that comes with patience, right? That comes with just stop talking for a second and listening. So I don't have that much advice when it comes to relationship, folks, as you can see. But I do think that, like other things, with the relationship too, even maybe I can talk about that a little bit as well. But even in the relationship, I think it's important to have, or to for men to express yourself as a man, right? I really do think it's important. I think, and for the women I know, and whether it's my sisters and my aunts and my uncles and my cousins, or so my aunts and my cousins, and my mom even, and my grandmother, I've always seen that women are attracted to strong men, right? But strong men can mean different things. Strong man doesn't have to be muscles. Strong man doesn't have to be intellectually strong, which it can be. Strong man doesn't have to be emotionally strong, which it can be. Strong man, it could be many different things in many different ways to many different people. So it's like, just be yourself, right? And be yourself. And that, I guess that's the bottom line for being a man as well, because there's no cookie cutter answer to what a man is. Like I said, we're on a spectrum. And if on one end of the spectrum is super, super masculine, whatever, Joe Cool, tattooed, he rides a motorcycle, he hunts. Not that any of this makes you tough or anything, but what you would think is the kind of the far ends of the spectrum. The far end of the spectrum is a masculinity, or on the other end, maybe someone who doesn't do any of that, right? Who doesn't want anything to do with hunting or fishing or tattooing or motorcycles or anything. And whatever you want to picture that to be, that's cool too. Except I'm not going to put anything into words in my mouth. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a spectrum, and there's some things where I fit on this end of the spectrum where I feel like I'm a caveman banging my chest, and sometimes I'm on this spectrum where I'm like, wow, it's not me. If I was labeled a guy for that, I would not be labeled a guy for that. Some things are not for you, right? I fall somewhere on that spectrum, and you fall somewhere on that spectrum, and your brother falls somewhere on that spectrum, and your dad does as well, and your uncles, and everybody does. So find out where you are and just be yourself. Be yourself. There's a quote that I forwarded, or I think I reshared it today. It's like, be yourself so genuine. I'm paraphrasing, but it says, be yourself so genuinely and so fulfilling, I guess, and so honestly, that it makes everybody else comfortable to be themselves as well. And I know I just butchered it, but the bottom line is, be yourself. Be yourself as a man. Be vulnerable as well. Be strong as well, but be vulnerable. Be a human. Any person, I think, that's going to be truthful enough to be honest and be humble and to realize and to admit that we make mistakes, and to admit that we're growing and learning, that's what a true man or a true woman is anyway, right? Okay. Enough of this men stuff. What's going on for June? What's going on for July? What happened in June, rather? What happened in July? I'm going to switch gears right now. If you like my stuff on the man, send me a message. Send me what you know. If you have any suggestions on what it's like to be a man, or how to succeed being a man on this keto journey, on this carnivore journey, on this weight loss journey, send me emails, fatsoradio@gmail.com. Okay. Now, I want to recap a little bit about June. June, I had an awesome podcast with Mike Brancatelli. Also, I had a podcast with Dr. Alan Dannenberg. two great podcasts. I learn a lot from them, different perspectives. This is what Fatso Radio means to me, and this is why I'm happy to share it, because we're all over the place, right? Not all over the place in an unfocused kind of, in a chaotic way, all over the place, as far as there's a lot of important stuff in this world. There's a lot of important stuff in life, and I want to talk about it all. Mike brought psychedelics to the picture. Mike brought psychedelics into the discussion, and I like talking about it. I want to talk about it more. That was just a very introductory conversation. We want to get a little bit deeper as as weeks go on and months go on. Dr. Al Dannenberg, awesome conversation, amazing information about just about being in the clinical setting all those years, right? Periodontist, he knows what he's doing. He sees the benefits of the keto diet, the carnivore diet, for cancer, for weight loss, and he's a bastion as well in just showing and shining light and carrying the torch for all of us. And kudos to him. June, like I said, wrapped up with my back to basics. I was doing my just 20/20/20s like I did a year ago. I basically did a whole month or a whole year. I went to 100 in May, and in June I went to 20/20, back to basics. July now, new stuff. July, I'm going to do some diving board push-ups, or I'm doing push-ups on my crunches, or push-ups, crunches, and squats rather, right on the diving board. And then I'm going to jump into the pool, something different. But I'm also going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of biking. So I've never really been a mountain biker or road biker at all. My sister rides mountain bikes for years. She's ridden a mountain bike. My other sister does as well. My brother does as well. A lot of friends I know, family, ride mountain bikes. So I'm going to start a little bit of riding around the bike, around the block to start, see where I can go with that. Trying to add that into my routine, my exercise routine, trying to mix it up. Do you have any ideas for me? If you have any maybe challenges, or if you have any kind of cool ideas about how to kind of spice up my exercise routine or whatever, let me know. This month, I'm also trying to go kind of back hardcore again. So every once in a while, I really challenge myself to try and be 100% compliant, or at least close to 100% compliant as I can. This month, my idea is really no sugar. So I'm not going to have any fruit. I'm not going to have any, really any sugar at all. I think the only source of sugar is probably going to be, actually, I'm not sure where I'm going to get sugar from, because I'm not eating it. So I'm eating meat, I'm eating eggs. There's a little bit of carbs and cheese, like not much. And that's pretty much going to be my carbohydrates. I'm going to eat, just meat for the month. I'm going to try and be extra strict. Like normally, even though when I'm on the carnivore diet, even though I'm on the keto diet, there are times where I swerve, right? There are times where I go off the diet. Like I say, always, they're not planned cheat days, and I don't recommend planning a cheat day. If you have a planned cheat day now and you're struggling and you're not seeing progress, that's what it is. Maybe not, but that might be it. Cut that cheat day. Make cheat days spontaneous, and you'll be better off. Make cheat days spontaneous for a couple of reasons. One, because if you plan for have a cheat day and you don't feel like it, you're still going to have that cheat day. I guarantee you. Secondly, if you don't plan a cheat day and you make them spontaneous, you may ride a ton of days together, right? And you will ride a ton of days together, actually, because you'll feel good. And the more days you have without a cheat day, the more momentum that kind of creates, right? And you take that and you run with it. So don't cheat. Don't cheat. If you want a cheat day, or if you have a day where you think, I don't know, just eat a little bit more. I don't know. I don't have advice on cheats. I've gone so many times back and forth on what's the best cheat day, what's the best thing to use for cheat days. But really, it's just do your best. I think there's a lot of value, and I say this a lot, but there's a lot of value in stringing a bunch of days together, right? Like I said earlier on in my journey, my first year of the weight loss, I was able to string 90 solid days together of really strict compliance. Like I was eating lettuce and meat and eggs, and that's it for about 90 days. And I think I lost 30 pounds, or maybe even more, 40 pounds. I lost a lot of weight and I felt great. I was outside, I was walking a lot. So there's a ton to be said about stringing a bunch of days together and being compliant, being strong, and just kicking ass, right? If you kick ass for 30 days, right, it's going to be easier for you to, I think anyway, it's going to be easier for you to resist that cheat or resist. And remember, I don't look at cheats as just something that's going to halt your weight loss. I look at cheats for a lot of people as something that really upsets your stomach, or makes you retain water, or maybe makes your joints hurt. So like everybody has a different approach to, everybody has a different manifestation of how foods react to them, right? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So, I don't know. Try and stay strong and try and stay with it, because like I said, it's so valuable to have those days together. And that's when you really see that progress, and that motivates you to keep on going. So Share with me your experiences. Share with me your routine. What are you doing this summer? What are you doing June? What are you doing July? I'm going to try and swim as much as possible. We have a pool thing. We are so fortunate. And I'm going to try and swim as much as I can. And my brother over, we're doing kung fu. We're still training. We're back in the Kun. We're back in the Kun. So it's actually, we're training outside, but we can go back in now because of regulations. But it's been so nice. We've been training outside. Tomorrow our class is at 11:30. I'm probably going to be inside because it's going to be scorching hot. But we'll see. I know I'm going to jump in the pool after class. So that's my thing. It's going to be, I'm having a good summer. How can I wrap this up, folks? I'm having a pretty good summer. I'm not working. I've been laid off since basically June and early June. And it's weird. I'm in a place where I'm doing this podcast. I love this podcast. I'm looking for a job. But hey, maybe this podcast will grow. Maybe this will be my job. Of course, if you have a job for me, send it to me. fatsoradio@gmail.com. Let me know. And again, like every other thing, any other sponsors out there, if you have a product, if you have a service and you think it fits with us and you think it fits with our mentality, our methodology, our philosophy of natural whole foods, animal-based diet, right? It's a whole food animal-based diet. That's what it is. And it's in contrast, I guess, to a whole food plant-based diet. If you have any ideas, if you have some questions, send them to me, fatsoradio@gmail.com. I love you all. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the sponsors as always, volpemartialarts.com and papaearth.ca. Use code word FATSOMeat to save yourself $10 off a small box or $20 off a big box. Folks, it's my pleasure to bring this to you every single Friday. It's July 3rd. Tomorrow, July 4th. Happy 4th of July to my American friends. Happy Canada Day. It just passed a couple days ago to my Canadian friends. And happy every other day for everybody around the world. Folks, I just want to send a big kiss and hug to everybody. I know this is tough. These are tough times for a lot of people. Like I have to say that I'm fortunate, and I have to say how thankful I am for everything, for everybody listening, for everybody with your likes and your comments or whatever. But even just I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for the city we live in, the country we live in. I'm proud to be Canadian. I'm proud to whatever, to live in Kitchener, to live in Ontario, and I'm proud to bring this to you every Friday. So episode number 74. I guess Brothers Talk. I don't know what we're going to call this one, but anyway, we'll see it in the show notes. I love you all. Have a great night. Happy Friday. Fatso Radio loves you, and Carlo loves you. Violet. Have a good night, folks. Love you. Let's say bye to everybody, and we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.